couple seconds that, oh, you're being recorded or
All right.
some kind of memo. And then I'll just do the introduction and then we'll get rolling with the questions.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yes. I'll try not to stumble over my words.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Exemplary Performance Client Spotlight. Our goal for these sessions is to celebrate client excellence. You'll hear what it's like to work with Exemplary Performance to solve complex business problems and share a passion for improved performance. Today, we're looking at excellence in customer success, and our guest is Joe Mulkern, Director of Technical Customer Success at DocuSign. Hi, Joe.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going well, thanks. Thank you for getting up early and joining us today.
No worries, my pleasure.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about your background, both professionally and personally, Joe.
Okay. Been in the tech world since the mid 80s and various roles in hardware. Worked for a hardware manufacturer for a bit and worked for computer resellers early in my career in the Southern California area. Had the opportunity to come up to the Seattle area and work for Microsoft as a vendor in their help desk early in the very early 90s. And that led to a role at Microsoft. And that led to a 17-year career at the company in customer-facing roles as a technical customer success manager type person or a technical account manager person in our OEM business for about 8 years, and then over into the enterprise space doing the same type of role. So it was very interesting working at Microsoft during that time. After that 17-year stint, I left Microsoft to go work for a small little startup called DocuSign. That was in 2014, and I've been there since 2014 in various roles, individual contributor roles, customer success architect. That led to a senior manager role in our adoption consulting business, which I helped spin up and grow from a regional concern to a global entity. And after 2.5 years there, I moved over to this role as a director in our technical customer success team.
Excellent. And that's how we got to know one another professionally. Personally, I can attest that you're a beast on the Peloton and you're a very intentional, meditative, thoughtful leader when you think about leading your team. And I know you're an avid Pacific Northwest hiker. So anything else you want the group to know about you personally, Joe?
Well, as you can see over my shoulder, I have a few guitars on the wall. So I've been known to play the guitar once in a while.
Very good. And I think your wife has a podcast and you may or may not contribute to the music to that. So totally appreciate that.
If we're going to toot the horn, yes, I do produce my wife's podcast. She runs the Female Farmer Project, and I help her by producing the podcast that we send out semi-frequently.
Terrific. And I've listened to that in such a skilled household that you have at the Mulkern residence.
Well, thank you very much.
So I mentioned we got to know you professionally through DocuSign's customer success team, and we've been working with you over the past 12 months, understanding really what makes your best technical customer success managers, your TCSMs, and your technical support engineers. Can you share a little bit more about that team and part of the organization, Joe?
As far as the TCSMs and the TSEs, or just the TCSMs? Or both?
Wherever. I know yeah.
So the technical customer success manager team was put together, I'd say, roughly 8 years ago. Don't hold me to that, maybe longer, as the next level of support for our most important and strategic customers. So we had tier 1 support, tier 2, tier 3, and then the TCSM. So not a tier 4, because they definitely were there to and are there to build the relationship and have a more relationship-based involvement with our customers rather than the transactional-based experience that the technical support engineers have. We started this organization, like I said, 8 years ago when we were just a one product company. We're just eSign. So it was prevalent. The prevalent support methodology was become an expert in the product front to back, because we only had one product with many different features. So become a feature subject matter expert and do cross training and things of that nature. When it came to the TCSM, it was not only do you need to be the product expert, but you need to be expert in how the product is being used with that customer, that book of business that you're managing. So that's where this started. And with the evolution of the company and the expansion of the platform to include not only eSign, but the CLM products and all the other products and features and functionality that we're adding to it, the level of complexity increased. So that forced our company to take a look at general support in a different manner. And instead of being generalists, we needed to start focusing on more subject matter expert and more channels, right? So if you're going to be leveraging DocuSign for Salesforce, for example, we need to have people that really understand that product and focus in on that product. And then all the other areas of focus and customization, or we call them the channels. We would then build and coach those individuals towards being successful in those individual channels. Same level of complexity affected the TCSM organization as well. So we're at the point where, do we expect our TCSMs to be product experts across the board, and is that scalable, right? So that's where we are in our evolution. And I believe that we're at the crossroads where, do we want to expect the TCSMs to actually do the actual break fix work for the customer? Or do we want to elevate their position in the ecosystem to be more of a technical advisor? And that's where we are right now as an organization. And I think the technical advisor role, where we are trying to educate the customer on how to engage us more strategically and have those conversations earlier in the process, and bring us into situations where things are starting to go in the wrong direction. You know, I use the firefighters analogy. You'd rather have me come in and walk around your house to take a look and identify the fire risks that are there, rather than me showing up at 2 a.m. when your house is fully engulfed and you're on the curb, you know, thanking me for showing up. I can be there at both situations. Which one would you rather me be at? And that's where you want to be proactive. So that's where you want to move the conversation into the more proactive space. Call me when you smell smoke. Don't call me when you're on the curb. So,
or better yet, call me to change your smoke detector batteries, which you're now reminding me to do.
Even better.
I appreciate
you know,
that.
if you're like my place, it's like 25 years old, I might need to update the smoke detector. So,
right.
Anyway.
Which always go off sometimes at 2 a.m. I can't figure out why.
I think it's programmed into the devices, to be honest with you.
Could be. So I hear you. And at the time, DocuSign was navigating from generalist to specialist because of your product portfolio, and to really give that extra customer success and support to the client. And your desire really as an entity was to look at what great looks like in the TCSM and TSE role, because that was the key to customer retention and expansion. Can you give the audience a little bit, anything else about the challenges you were trying to solve before our partnership?
Well, yeah, there was also, depending on when you came into the organization, you would have, through your training, a mindset of what was important and what needed to be done. So as the training changed based on the needs of the business, you had this group that went in before that had their methodology, and then you had the group that came in after that had their own methodology. And as things changed again, there was no set standard for what good looks like. And it wasn't documented and put down in writing, like, this is what we expect. So one leader would have one expectation and the other leader would have another expectation. We were unaware that there was a misalignment in those expectations, right? So, and that holds true for not only TCSM, but the TSEs as well, especially after they went from a generalist to a specialist. So how do you make those, and what does success look like? And is the customer involved in that success criterion, right? So what does a successful call look like? Well, it isn't, hey, I got off that tough one and I survived it. No, is the customer in a better state, right? That's what we're looking for.
Great. And we were also engaging with looking at accelerating your performance of managers. So you got the concept, you wanted to unpack what great looks like within your organization, and
Right.
we wanted to equip your manager peer set with the tools to be able to coach and hold folks accountable to this new what good looks like standard. So
that was a key piece. Is wasn't hey, the individual contributors, here's what the managers expect. It was like, okay, so how do I share this message with my direct reports in a way that they receive it well, right? And how is this truly a coaching mechanism versus a stack ranking type of mechanism? That was the biggest challenge we ran into, is educating the individuals to say, this isn't us saying, hey, Bob's better than Steve, or Jill's better than Steve. It's all. So here is what good looks like in your role. How comfortable are you with hitting these objectives? And where are these concepts? Like, do they line up with what you already know, or are any of these concepts that we're introducing just brand new to you, right? Um, I've heard on these Peloton rides, when you do your functional threshold power ride or your FTP ride, it's a way for finding out. It's a way for finding out where you are in your fitness, so that you can then do that training at scale through the rest of the Peloton or Power Zone program to improve your fitness. This is the same thing. We know what great looks like, but where are you today, right? And the analogy they use is Uber. You want to go to point B, but where's point A? You're at the you're at the intersection of walk and don't walk somewhere in your town. Be specific so the driver can come pick you up. And the driver in this scenario is your manager, and they're trying to coach you to point B. So where's your point A?
that's great. And I think a value add too, given DocuSign's growth, especially during the pandemic, is once you have that role standard, not only helping the incumbents get better, get to that point B, that better destination, but enhance your ability as an organization to attract, retain, and grow talent within the role.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This allows us to have a very comprehensive job description that our HR business partner is very happy to see. So, because it allows them to really understand what we're looking for when they're doing the pre-screening. Our recruiting team loves to see it as well. And that gives us the opportunity to, when we're doing the interview, build a list of interviewers that have skills in specific areas that they can query in and dive deep. Right. So I'm excited about how that's going to blossom, and how that's going to really reinforce good candidates coming in, right, and remove a lot of the guesswork.
Great. So appreciate you, Joe, painting the picture of the organization, what you were challenged with, how it was affecting continuity of customer success and those relationships. So before engaging exemplary performance, what other possible solutions did you consider as you move from this generalist to specialist and tried to codify really what excellence looks like?
This was So the exemplary performance was brought to our attention through our senior director, Sergio, who had worked with you guys before when he was at Microsoft. And I don't know if there was, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if there were other things that were being looked at. I know before I joined the team, pardon me, before I joined the team, Sergio had reached out, and you guys had done a pilot program with my peers, and the feedback was very positive, and it led to the final approval of having you guys come in formally and work with our team. So I was a little late to the game, and I was like, okay, so if this is good, what does it mean? And the lack of clarity in what the vision was gave me some concern, because I needed to understand what done looked like. What does good look like? And I think I was just going on faith that Sergio was very bullish for what you guys have done in the past, and very based on the pilot, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Excited, optimistic, hopeful, all of these things about how it could benefit the team, generally speaking. And in hindsight, I don't know why I was unsure. I don't like having the pieces of the puzzle unknown to me. Sometimes you don't get that opportunity, and I just had to okay, let's go on faith. Let's move forward and see what goodness comes of us. But,
we'll appreciate that. And it's quite okay and very honest to say that working with us was not entirely your choice. So you're correct that the past 2 decades, really, Paul and Sergio had done this at Microsoft for various roles. That was a contributing factor for sure. And a pilot project, a small one that was done kind of 18 months ago. So it's okay to be skeptical. And I remember when I first met you, you had just graduated from a Cornell class on change management. And you told us, hey, I'm going to keep you accountable to make sure that the principles that I just learned we're abiding by, because we need this to be sticky within the organization. So it was a great partnership, kind of right from the front, from the word go. And what kind of risks did you consider with this type of project? I remember you wanted to be engaged up front, and you said, please be transparent if there's things I should be thinking about. But what were you thinking about as a project this size, and potential risks to the organization?
I wanted to ensure, okay, so first, Sergio's excitement and commitment to this program and my trust in Sergio allayed a lot of my fears. The biggest fear is like, I don't want to be the weakest link in this, because I felt like everybody was like a page and a half ahead of me in the story. And everybody's like, no, this is great. This is great. I'm like, I just need, my brain will allow me to move forward until I understand these key components. And that was those components weren't going to happen until we started moving down the road, right? So it's like, you guys have been down this river before. I haven't. I don't know where the rapids are. I hope I don't hold anybody back. And the other thing was, if this is going to be something that we're going to lean on going forward, what are the mechanisms in place to maintain the evergreen nature of the program so that it doesn't lose the attention or the favor of leadership, senior leadership, and it doesn't wither on the vine? That's always been something when you roll out a new project. What's the lifespan of this project? Is this going to be an evergreen thing that we're always feeding into? And how do we roll that into the culture of leadership? And how do we roll that into the culture of the individual contributor?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because change management is hard, right? And according to the Heath brothers in their book Switch, you have to motivate kind of the mental piece, the emotional piece, the heart, in order to keep things sticky within the organization. So kudos to you, because you established office hours so that folks could ask you as our counterpoint within the organization, hey, I have questions about the intent or the content, or how do I do this first performance review, against these new standards. You also were key in integrating it into the rhythm of the business so that it felt natural. It's involved in your biweekly coaching sessions with your direct reports. You're keeping it alive, and you're finding and magnifying bright spots of where this works, right? And your brain is already going to, if we have a great client team, how are they firing kind of as a team unit? And what does that excellence look like as team accomplishment? So
Yep.
It's upon our client organizations and not necessarily us to do the lift of making it sustainable within the organization. And I think you've done a great job about that. So anything else you would add about integrating it into the rhythm of the business?
Well, your comment about how do we not only make the technical customer success manager and the technical support engineer successful and be clear about what success looks like and what good looks like, and be clear about the key excellence indicators or KPIs, and the daily work that needs to be done to achieve these goals. I mean, that provides clarity and removes the ambiguity and the perspective and perception of the individual contributor and the manager. It's in black and white. Now, how do we move that, to your point, to the account teams? How do we find out what good looks like and great looks like from an account team perspective. And I want to move it to what does it look like in a good relationship with the customer as well. And I've shared this with Sergio recently, and I'm sharing it with my team. I've got 3 pillars that are important to me in managing my business. Number 1 is customer health. How healthy are they? Number 2 is how healthy is the TCSM, right? Do they feel empowered? Do they have what they need, the tools they need, and the backing from me and the support from senior leadership to not worry about all that stuff and to really focus on the customer and do a good job. And number 3 is how healthy is the account team, right? And now that 1, 2, and 3 is just, it's not by order of importance. They're like my children and they're all important to me. But if one of them is not healthy, they could infect the other ones. So I'm looking at those 3 things and I'm reporting up to senior leadership to say, here's the book of business that rolls up to you, the senior leadership as far as sales. Here are the healthy accounts, and here are the healthy account teams, and here are the healthy TCSMs. Here are the ones that aren't healthy. Let's build a plan around getting them healthier, right? Here are the efforts that I've taken to on my side, but I think it needs to be a unified approach that if this is important to us, we need to lean into this. So
beautiful. Great. And just a steward of that work. So appreciate you kind of thinking holistically about that so that you can gain traction. And it's not just another initiative that falls by the wayside in terms of leadership's purview. So appreciate that. And thank you for your vulnerability saying, I have to come along with this process, right? Some of the feedback we get, Joe, from our clients is that when we do a performance analysis and a diagnostic, a lot of it is invisible. We're doing a lot of interviews and observations and talking with your bright spots, your top performers that are constantly exceeding those KPIs that you mentioned. And then we come forth with some observations, but it might be a minute before you can see it, right? And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But how would you, that's often a challenge that's very common across our customer groups, that performance analysis, the diagnostic part kind of is lights out a little bit. So what can we do better at Exemplary Performance to help our clients like you along the journey when it's kind of the heavy diagnostic process?
I think you're doing a great job in understanding what the key excellence indicators are. And I use that to say, all right, if we're going to be looking at these indicators, we need to get a baseline and do some reporting on this. If we can report on this, let's get some reporting in there. I don't know what tools your customers, your other customers are going to be leveraging. We have Salesforce and Tableau here. So we're leveraging Salesforce and Tableau to look at our key performance indicators and seeing if we don't have a measurement for the key performance indicators or excellence indicators, how do we create them? How would we go about getting this data? So let's not wait for the tooling to be in place before we leverage these concepts with our customers. Let's leverage these concepts with our customers, knowing that we're going to do our best in measuring the key success indicators manually while we talk to our BI team to say, this is the data that's important to us. Here's how we're tracking it. We're doing it manually. We'd like to automate this. Can you help us? So that's what we're doing here. Every customer is different, of course. I'd say if you can build that into your program to say, in order to keep this evergreen, lean into this process. Here are some recommendations we can have for you, right?
That's great advice, and appreciate doing kind of a measurement map up front to know where we're headed. And in addition to our weekly status updates and our touch points that we had very frequently, I think pulling that thread through would just make it more real and more tangible, especially when we're doing the hard effort of the discovery work. So appreciate that feedback.
And I would also encourage your customers to not jump to solution, right? And that's part of the change management component that I brought to the table. It's like we usually jump to solution, and because we want the problem to be solved, we want our customers to be happy, we want our direct reports to be happy, but we also, as leaders, have the responsibility to slow down and truly diagnose the situation, right? We got to look at it like physicians. And if we do a poor diagnosis of an individual, we haven't done them any favors. We haven't done ourselves any favors, right? So let's slow down. Let's really find out what the symptoms indicate. and then really do a 360 to understand, is this really cancer or is it indigestion, right? So
Big difference there, Joe.
there's a lot of real estate between those 2 points. Let's narrow it down a little bit, right?
Great. Yes, for sure, for sure. So why don't you give our listeners a little bit of exposure and insight into what it was like to work with Exemplary Performance?
You guys are awesome. I looked forward to our conversations on Friday because you guys were so. I looked both at you and you're gonna have to edit this.
Oh,
Drawing a blank. Paul. God,
yeah,
why?
you're fine.
You and Paul show up with these big smiles, and you're super encouraging, and you just like. I felt like no matter what challenges I was facing, this call was going to be the bright part of my day because it was helping me out, and you guys were encouraging and bringing me along for the journey. Even though I came up going, "Hey, I'm really kind of looking at you sideways. What's this all about?" Yeah, I miss our calls. I'll just say that.
Appreciate this. And this is a non-sponsored, right, discussion. So appreciate that. I miss them too. And it's easy when we have that shared collective drive for improved performance. So the model, you gravitated towards it, you saw it, and I think it's just constantly evolving, and it's your charge now to give that to the organization. But it was fun on our side too to work with your bright spots that were truly incredible human beings, beyond just positive customer success folks. And we enjoyed that relationship very much. So have you benefited personally or through using this application in any other areas?
You know, it is deceptively simple. The concept. It's like who's crushing it? Who's crushing it, and who's getting the positive feedback from the customer that they're crushing it, right? And how do we just like clone that behavior across the board, right? Because it's simple. You find people who are really doing well. You find out what they're doing daily to hit their goals and exceed their goals in most situations. And it's like, do that. Can you guys do that? I mean, it's oversimplified from putting it on paper. But when you introduce people into it, that's where the challenge comes from, because you've got people come to the table with all their history, and you need to understand who you're talking to and understand your audience and craft your message so that it resonates with your audience. So as a leader, it's incumbent upon you, whether we're talking about this program or any program, to understand the people that report to you and understand how they take or intake information. I'm the messenger. I'm responsible to make sure that I understand who I'm talking about and how to get that message into them to their benefit, right? And if I don't do that work, I'm irresponsible in my leadership. If the effectiveness of my message is the response I get. So if I get a response that I'm not anticipating, then it's on me as the messenger to understand, A, how was my message crafted? B, was it crafted towards my audience? And C, did I confirm that they got the message and are they on board? Right? So as leaders, we are messengers. We take the message from senior leadership and we bring it to our people in a way generally they can understand, but we follow up one-on-one to make sure that they get the salient points and clear up any misconceptions that they have. If we're not doing that as leaders, we need to rethink why we're in leadership. And this role, this program, it's incumbent upon us as leaders to ensure that the people know that this is a tool to enable them to do better and have a more meaningful experience and be engaged in more meaningful work. And you're going to have to deal with the baggage that is a barrier to your message going in. And it takes time to build that trust with regard to this program, because they are always in their history like, how is this not stack ranking? How is this not you measuring me against somebody else? That's the biggest barrier that we've encountered. And it's going to be a barrier that your other customers are going to encounter as well, because I don't think we're unique. in that regard.
Appreciate that. So many sound bites, and just love your philosophy about the effectiveness of your messaging is dictated by the response. I didn't think of it that way, but that philosophy proves why you're doing so well in embedding it into the organization. So I think that's some great wisdom. Thank you for imparting that. And you mentioned other clients. So we talked about not rushing to solutions before an appropriate diagnostic. What other advice would you offer potential clients in similar situations that are evaluating and in need of performance improvement?
I said it before, I'll say it again. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Immediate gratification is not part of this program. This will take time. This will take quarters for things to turn. Some indicators may pop immediately. The biggest for your potential customers, the biggest challenge, and I've raised it earlier, is like, how do we keep this evergreen? It's not a one-time and done. This isn't a quick fix. This isn't a get rich quick. This is, hey, you need to change the way you're thinking and the way you're operating. This is a lifestyle change, right? So if it's important enough to make the investment in time and the investment monetarily to get Exemplary Performance engaged, then it's incumbent upon you to build in to your time that you're going to spend with your customers, that this is part of it, or with your direct reports, that this is part of it. This needs to be front burner for you, because you're coaching and leading your people. And this is going to help you coach and lead your people more effectively.
Great. Appreciate that. Again, just an awesome philosophy in your approach to this. And we talked about KPIs a little bit. So rounding out kind of our conversation here, what measurable benefits have you seen, and how do you plan to measure and evaluate success? So I know you talked about it's sometimes too early to see tangible impact, but can you comment on the dashboard metrics that you're looking at, just very loosely, that you're going to track from this engagement?
So one of the things we're looking at is the time our experts spend with the customer in direct facing. We tell them it's important to help us understand the workload that's on them, right? What's it cost us as far as time to support the average enterprise level customer. We also it highlighted our mechanisms and methods for tracking time that need to be reviewed, because it's burdensome. So it's highlighted some areas in tooling that we need to adjust. It's highlighted some areas in reporting as far as dashboarding that we need to have that we don't have. So it's helping us sharpen our saw there. The customer sat numbers are going up, right? Our target SLA numbers, which is the amount of time it takes our support engineers and our TCSMs to respond to cases, that's going up as well, right? So we're able to the number of cases that are being responded to within the SLA is on the rise, so that's good. So I see a number of things that are happening. The biggest thing is it's highlighting, if this highlights what's important to us and what we expect from our TCSMs, that's going to directly influence the tooling that we have and the reporting that we have or don't have in both cases.
Great. Appreciate that. And I know it's a journey to capture that and to make it evergreen, like you said. So as the tech industry ebbs and flows, certainly there's a microscope on it with, the impending recession and whatnot, and all eyes are on
alleged recession.
All eyes are on high tech. And it's important to refresh and to see how that role is going to change, just as it had through the pandemic as well. So we look forward to your continued partnership there. As we work to close, Joe, anything else you feel that would be helpful for our listeners to know?
It's okay not to know something, right? Nobody's expected. I don't expect anybody to know everything, because if you think about it, that's a large list. You're not going to know how things are going to turn out, but what you can do is work towards identifying where you can make improvements. The only thing that through this change management course that you mentioned before, it's like I went after the change management certification so I could be versed in the vernacular, and so I can have meaningful conversations with seasoned practitioners in change management with my customers and internally here at DocuSign. The only thing that's a constant is change. Nothing is static. So your customers are going to change. Their needs are going to change. The people that you talk to and those customers are going to change and move on with their career. Change is all around us. So being cognizant of that, knowing that what your situation is today is what you're facing today. Tomorrow's not promised to anybody, but it may be coming. A high percentage that it's going to come. Yesterday is a lesson that we can learn from. So just work what's in front of you. Take it a step at a time. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You have time to figure it out. Just keep in contact with Paul and Jamie, and they will guide you to the other end of the tunnel. No worries.
Appreciate that, Joe.
And that makes sense. Was that good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yes. And where's your next hike?
Oh, well, the mountains there's a lot of fires going around here. And so the air quality is pretty bad. But if it clears out, I'm going to see if I can't get back up to Mig Lake on the Pacific Crest Trail before the snow comes in. So hopefully. We found a route. The last route we did was 8 miles in and 8 miles out. That's a bit of a slog. We found another route that's about 2 miles, and it's a tough 2 miles, but it's still 2 miles. So hopefully we'll be able to get up there, my son and I, and do some fishing up there.
Great. Well, appreciate you spending part of your time today with us, Joe, to talk about your client success and what you've experienced. And we'll always have a piece of us. We are rooting for DocuSign success and all of the folks that we met through this engagement. So best of luck to you, and thanks for sharing some of your time and wisdom.
No problem, and thank you very much. I wish you nothing but success. And you're only a phone call away if I need you. So, hopefully we can share this with other teams inside the company and move the needle in the right direction.
Great.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
How was that?
You are such a vulnerable leader with the high empathy, like the green piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes through, and it's just a nice change of pace from some of the other people that we work with. So how was that for you?
It was all right. I didn't want to get into, with the layoffs, we've had to really think about, how do we message? And that was the conversation I had with Sergio and Mark. It's like, listen, I know we've got a lot of things on our plate, and I know that we've got